Now here again is John Thomas. John, your compelling message, When Hope Unborn Has Died, touches the hearts of all of us as a metaphor. You begin with the illustration of the premature baby who has died. Mm-hmm. For those stillbirths of many kinds in our lives, how have you, as you look back on your journey, dealt with those kinds of moments? Are there moments when you have experienced a stillbirth personally?
There are certainly moments when one is afraid that that's about to happen. In my own experience, our second son was born with some very, we thought, significant problems. And in just a moment, one goes from great excitement to horrendous anxiety. And you face immediately the prospect of all of the expectation and all of the plans simply vanishing. And at that time, it's simply important, I think, to cling to someone. That's what I found so compelling and disturbing about that night in the hospital, these two parents sitting almost on opposite corners of the room. So finding a way to slowly bring them together really was the key to the beginning of healing.
So often that kind of sharp pain can separate, can't it?
It drives us into isolation. And ironically, it's the isolation that imprisons us in our grief.
But the reassurance, of course, which you amplify, that God does not leave us orphaned, that nothing can separate us from the love of God. But how does that get revealed to people who are at the bottom of the pit of despair and see no way out?
Most of us have to find our own way. We saw how the labyrinth can be an opportunity to move into solitude, and yet solitude that's accompanied by others in their own journeys, and finding the presence of God and the companionship of others. I think for most of us, however, it's the awareness not simply of a God whose love will not let us go, but of a friend whose love will not let us go, who will stand with us in the midst of all of our pain and anger and grief, and unlike Job's friends, resist the temptation to offer explanations, but simply to be there with us.
Just to be present.
That's right. And to remind us that we need not move into this empty future without companionship.
The title of your talk, When Hope Unborn Has Died, it comes from an African-American hymn. How did you discover that?
It's a famous hymn. It's the national anthem of African Americans. Lift up your voice, lift your voice and sing. It's a hymn that speaks of not simply personal tragedy, but the community's tragedy of a terrible struggle through the years of enslavement and the journey toward freedom. And the experience undoubtedly of so many of those persons who saw their life taken away from them.
Thank you for giving us that gift of promise, John Thomas.